welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. Thanks for joining us. All right, I've got Michael Gilburd, President, ValuCorp, valucorp.us. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
All right, I'm glad you're here. All right, you've got a long history in this world, managing director of corporate finance for two of American Express's companies, national director of corporate finance for a member of the International Corporate Finance Committee, BDO. As a matter of fact, I got a meeting with those guys on next Friday. Give us some deeper background on what you've done, because that's just the tip of the iceberg, and then I want to get into ValuCorp.
Well, in terms of what I've done, I actually started my career as an IRS agent, and that took me, as you might expect, into the tax area, and that took me over to the business area and corporate finance and business valuation. Right now, we're valuing everything at our company, from cattle farms to oil wells to technology, social media, robotics, very warm, and whatever industries are needed to be analyzed.
Okay.
And with that, we do valuations for all sorts of purposes. Companies going public, companies that are public that have large blocks of shares, private companies that are taking in investors, and things of that nature.
How do you find out what a business is really worth?
Well, there are three requirements that any valuer uses, whether it's a business, real estate, gold coins, diamond rings. They're required to look at an asset approach, a market approach, and an income approach. After we get those amounts through those approaches, we then have premiums or discounts for particular businesses.
Yeah, a friend of mine was trying to value my business, and he was trying to come up with multiples through industry sectors. Is there such just a go-to Kelley Blue Book, if you will, for that type of valuation comparison?
There is, but it's not. It's a very broad and wide fairway.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Because if you use a multiple, let's say you have one business that they're both restaurants. They both have 1,000 seats. They both have 3 turns a day, and one is in Fargo, North Dakota, and the other is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Based on location and interest in people in wanting to be in that area, the location may make a very large difference. Now, North Dakota may be a very hot area in terms of employment because of what's going on in the oil industry. So that would be a factor. How many people work in the restaurant? How many, the experience of management, whether or not it could be replicated and really grow as a franchise or as a licensed idea, are all factors that you never see in what you were going toward, which is a rule of thumb method. So what we end up with when we use rule of thumbs, somebody might say, well, it's worth 3 to 6 times EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Well, 3 to 6 times, if you're talking millions of dollars, that's quite a wide fairway.
Right. I can see why the rule of thumb really doesn't work. You really have to be in the area, know the sector to really drill down on that. Where would somebody go to find this information out? I mean, obviously they'd be calling you, but you have to go someplace to figure this stuff out too.
Well, we subscribe to many different databases, if you will. Mm-hmm. Plus, we know people in many different industries. So one is you go to the databases. Some of them have rules of thumb. Companies like Capital IQ publish transactions, and under the market approach that I mentioned, transactions are very helpful in terms of multiples, but that's one area. One could look at public companies and say, well, I'm in the business of leasing office space. Who's in that business? Or I'm in the business of providing social media. Who's in that business? And for fair disclosure, by the way, I'm also deeply involved in a social media company called Boink Live. So I have a little bit of a non-valuation prejudice toward that industry and where that industry is going. And that's where we see a lot of activity these days. Industries like cryptocurrency, robotics, virtual reality, social media. Those are the ones that are getting valued a lot because they're raising money. And we have found that companies that are raising money that go through the process of having a business valuation so they could tell investors that it's been viewed by an expert third party as to the value is very helpful to their process, creates a much higher probability of success of raising money.
Now, Michael, let me jump in here for a second. Just 1 second. We've got like 1 minute left on this, and this is not your last time on the show because I could see all kinds of synergies and reasons we need to talk. As you know,
thank you.
You're welcome. Real quick before we close out, startups getting these high valuations, going
Great
public.
Question.
Yeah,
and people often come to me and say, "Well, gee." Why should I invest in a startup, or even why invest in a company that's losing money? Well, interestingly enough, if you're losing money and you're public, you're better off than if you're making money and the amount of money is very small, because then as a public company, you're priced based on earnings per share.
Michael, we got to go, but I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to We're going to pick this up when you come back, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Michael Gilburd, President, ValuCorp.us. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Thanks for being here. We'll be back again Monday with more great content. Thanks for listening, whether you're in Dallas or Singapore. We appreciate all of the accolades in the fan club. Thanks so much.